Hi, good evening. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to call our special meeting of the Town Plan and Zoning Commission to order. Today is Monday, December 16th at 6:03 p.m. My name is Robert Klee. I'm the chair of our Woodbridge Town Plan and Zoning Commission. Other members of the commission who are with us here tonight are Ben Cherry, Yoni Samir, Jeff Kennedy, and Kathleen Hunter. We may be joined by others as they arrive on this cold, dark, rainy night. Thank you, Chris Sullivan, as always, for your support. You are our town land use analyst and zoning enforcement officer, but so much more. Today we're in person. Nice to see all of you. Our agenda has been posted to the town website, and our special meeting tonight concerns the Commission's Plan of Conservation and Development. Tonight we're going to have a conversation with our consultants, SLR International, and talk about their work on their ongoing work on the update with a specific focus on the draft vision statements that folks on the Commission should have received. So perhaps, SLR, do you want to kick us off? And I do note my apologies in advance that I'll have to sneak out in 10 minutes or so, and I will turn it over to Yoni. Is that right?
So it's already on?
Yeah.
Okay, I know in a
And
couple
for the
places
folks
I
in
have
the-
to like turn it to green, so I wasn't sure.
And for the folks in the back, I don't think it's really projecting in here much, or maybe I'm not hearing it.
Are you hearing okay?
I think now, yeah.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the planning, or the Town Plan and Zoning Commission. It's a pleasure to be in front of you again tonight. Robert Collins with SLR and Taylor Daigle with SLR is here as well. As you know, when we met with you last, we kind of give you an example or a proposed vision statement to kind of help guide the rest of our work. We asked you to review it and to give us your suggestions, which you all did. So thank you very much for those that submitted suggestions and comments. We got together with Chris after those were all collected and kind of, took a look at them. One commissioner submitted something that was more just on the line of questions, like making sure that, throughout the process, or hoping that the process would help define crucial words like sustainability and those types of things, which we do agree that we think that the process will help define them. And we can always, once we get to the end of the process, when we revisit the vision statement and look at the whole document, if we feel that something in the vision statement is not answered, then, by either the goals and strategies or the discussions within those sections, that we can certainly do that. And I know that with like sustainability, for instance, we're going to be carrying forward the already kind of known definition or use of that term in the existing POCD. So we're not really at this point proposing to change that. We did receive also some edits directly to the proposed vision statement, and then we also received a new vision statement possibility. And so when we met with Chris, we strategized carefully about like how to incorporate all the comments that we received, as well as maybe kind of how we could potentially mesh the two. But we found that really because there was a lot of commissioners that hadn't seen the new version, we thought it was best that we kind of move some of the ideals from that forward. We think we captured it pretty well, or the best that we thought we could. But in what we gave you back to prepare for tonight's meeting, we, as you probably saw from looking at this, we do have a marked up version that shows exactly how we incorporated your comments. We have a clean version so you can see that cleanly, but we also supplied the alternative version just so that you can see that as well. And I think with that, we're open to comments about whether folks are comfortable with the version that we as staff worked on to try to consolidate, and if there's any additional suggestions or other approaches that you'd like to take. Anybody have any questions or comments?
So that's it there, right? The version of it that's its current form.
Yes, that's it. That's the original version that we
Right
shared
on.
with you, and then that's with all the track changes based on the edits that we received, and also trying to incorporate some of the ideals of the alternative version. I know that some of the words got adjusted that we already had talked about at the last meeting. You know, and we thought that the comments that we received that were editing the original version were pretty much what we were, you know, expecting based on what we had talked about at that meeting. And we found them all to be good suggestions. So I know that what we would be wanting to know is if there's any additional comments that anybody had that maybe didn't like submit them, any final just choices, and then also an open conversation about, you know, whether we go with the edited version or the alternative version or some other variation thereof.
I mean, I have to say that the edited version, there's still phrases that I'm still not comfortable with, and that's
Okay.
why, you know, I did I did send this out to everybody. I just revised, you know, the vision and the different themes, so everybody could see those. And you know, I still, of course, I'm comfortable with what I put forth, though. You know, there's some, you know, some of this I would be okay with, but there's some areas where I'm just not comfortable, and I don't know if you know, I could talk through that, and maybe we could have dialogue.
Yeah, I
on
mean, I
that.
think that's why we're here tonight. I mean, you know, again, just to be, I guess now that you've mentioned that, you know, you did supply the alternative version,
Right.
which was great. But again, we didn't feel like others had seen that version, and so that's why we felt like we tried to go through it very carefully with Chris, and we tried to pull out what we thought were your ideals. We know that everybody, the other commissioners had looked at the other one, and so that's why we were trying not to change it too much unless they came together as a group. But again, we're totally open for the full discussion of everybody and then decide which things you might be talking about. The only thing, which again, we will chime in if we feel that we know that what we're trying to get out of that particular theme area, if it's like losing its focus. And that's, you know, other than that, that would be the only time we would kind of interject a comment.
And I'll share that I was the other one with the line edits. So the line edited version are mostly my edits after, which I did, I think, literally the night after or right after our meeting, which I think incorporates some of the things I may have mentioned in that meeting, and then a few other edits here and there. So, which I didn't share with everyone. I think I just sent it to Chris, who sent it to the SLR team.
Right. I mean, I did share my version with everybody, so I don't, you know, if there's anything there that
Kathy, if you want to advocate, you know, for a certain phrase or something, or a certain word, turning a word, you know, I would be happy to hear what you have to say if that's not in the version that got sent out. But if you wanted to advocate something specifically, I'll listen to it. I pretty much was in favor of what I read, you know, the one that came out. I think it was the second version, if I'm recalling it correctly. But
there was an alternative version. Did you?
I did see some of that. I didn't prefer the alternative version, but if there's something that you want to advocate for or say, I would do that. Look, I think this statement is something that helps when it's like from 50,000 feet, you know, and is brought as a broader document that the town can then use over the next 10 years to go in different directions. But the more you commit the town to do certain things, the less maybe choice the town would have over that period of time. So I come in favor of a more broadly worded document with a few broader versions or visions, if that makes any sense. I think when you get down to certain types of things that are more specific, I think it's harder to defend that. You can have a reason for doing the things you want in town, but if you keep it a little bit broader, I think it's a little bit better in that respect.
I actually think mine was even broader, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
Did you?
If you have a phrase that you want to put in or something, or you want something taken out,
Yeah, maybe Kathy, also, could you share, some of the words or phrases that you didn't like as much in the
Yeah, I
SOI
mean,
version?
maybe we could go through that.
And I just want to point out, we've only got a half hour in this room.
Got it.
So you need to move this conversation along.
Okay, well.
Yes, ma'am.
What I wasn't comfortable with is the first sentence, and this is repeated a couple times. We talk about Woodbridge is a welcoming suburban community, and I guess my question is, welcoming to who? It's welcoming to people that have the financial means to be able to come into the town. And I just feel at this point in time, we could certainly aspire to be welcoming, but at this point in time, I just don't feel that we are welcoming to everybody and anybody that wants to come into town. So I have a problem with saying welcoming. I also have a concern when we talk about expanding housing options in a fiscally way. Because that kind of sounds like it's fiscal zoning. And I don't think that's something we would want to advance as a zoning commission, since it's usually something that doesn't uphold in court. So I don't think we should be talking about, expanding housing options and enhancing economic development opportunities within the community in a fiscally, it talks about socially, environmentally, but the idea of expanding housing options in a fiscally way is problematic for me. So I don't think we should be phrasing it that way.
I just want to add one note. The only reason why and this is again just because whatever you decide is totally fine. We had as you might recall from our notes from the community survey, as well as the other engagement activities, we had an overwhelming number of people that talked about the tax burden in the town and things related to the tax base. And so we initially put the word fiscally in there, not to try to limit the town, but tried to make sure that those in the community that are concerned about the tax base saw that there is fiscally, being fiscally responsible was embedded in there somewhere. We could certainly rephrase it in a different way, but I just wanted to mention that that's why we had originally put the word fiscally in there.
Right, but there's also people that do talk about promoting, fiscal zoning policies to prevent certain groups of people from coming in because of the fiscal impact on the town. And that's what I'm concerned about. That also conveys that type of, feeling. And, we've heard a lot, when they talk about how if we expand housing for families, we're going to have to build a new school and it's going to have a fiscal impact. I don't think we want to be, endorsing, language like that. So, yes, this on the flip side, when you talk about fiscally in terms of taxes and things of that sort, I agree. That's being, fiscally responsible. But when you're talking about having fiscal policies that are preventing certain groups of people because of the fiscal impact that could have on the town, then that's an issue, because that's, things that just don't hold up.
Those words, fiscally, socially, and environmentally, are just describing the word sustainable. And that sentence is already trying to do a lot. How would you feel about just saying, while sustainably expanding housing options and enhancing economic development opportunities within the community, period? Do we need to
Or
articulate?
enhancing in economic development opportunities, expanding housing and economic development opportunities in the community sustainably, or in a sustainable way.
In a sustainable way.
I'll have to give one last note before I go, because my son's receiving an award tonight just over there at the high school. I am fine with welcoming, even if it is aspirational, because it signals that we want this community to be welcoming for the next 10 years. So I'd prefer keeping that word in.
And you don't, but that was one of the suggestions that you made.
Thank you all. I turn it over to Yoni now as chair, and appreciate folks for being
Thank you,
here.
Rob. Sure.
And part of the reason that we were asking you all to come together was we only had really the comments from 3 people, so we, SLR, everybody couldn't tell by default with not giving any comments, did that mean you were in favor of what was out there or not? So we need input.
Yeah.
And I'm just tracking some changes up here that you suggest, highlighting the words that we've got concerns about, so that we can just kind of live edit this and work through it as we're here.
Do you feel okay with that edit, getting rid of those 3 fiscally, socially, environmentally, just changing it? How does
Well,
that?
again, I still, I personally still I'd have an issue with saying we're welcoming when we're not.
Oh, no, but I'm asking about the end of the paragraph. If we got rid of those 3, if we struck those 3 the way she's got it there, you see that?
Yes,
In a sustainable way. instead of-
that's fine.
I personally agree with Rob that the concept of saying it's welcoming, I mean, with all due respect to all the hard work that goes into the entire plan, this part to me is almost pablum. I don't want that to be a pejorative, but it's almost like it's pablum, and I appreciate all the hard work that people have done to sort of, give it so much thought. I think saying the word welcoming or not saying the word welcoming, to me, it doesn't make a difference. I think it's good that we aspire, and so the word is in there. I think we're aspiring to be more welcoming.
Isn't a vision statement by its very nature and definition aspirational?
Yeah. I guess,
Would you
It's
guys,
not retrospective, so.
right. I guess if it is a vision statement, that's true.
would you feel more comfortable if we said Woodbridge is a suburban community and at the end say, and aspires to be welcoming to all?
No.
No, I think I agree with what Commissioner Skolnick said. It is a vision statement, so our vision is that we are welcoming. I guess seeing it as a vision, that would be a great vision. Because the other themes do talk about envisions and aspires, and actually, I'm sorry, I'm reading mine. I think it did even. Right, the clean copy also has envisions and aspires.
Yeah, the rest of that opening statement, other than the welcoming, is from your version, so we thought that was a good compromise as well.
Right, maybe the theme area 3, maybe again Woodbridge, maybe put more of, aspires to be welcoming in the theme area number 3.
As opposed to maintaining.
Or are you talking in the text?
I'm talking about the text. Welcome is
Well,
Woodbridge
yes.
is
It just says Woodbridge is welcoming
And-
with strong roots.
right, and it says maintaining a welcoming community. And again, I
Oh, and
Kathy,
the
I kind of
actual-
think you need to make the argument that we're not welcoming. I haven't really heard you articulate that.
did. I
No,
mean,
I think you just said you don't think that we are.
I feel welcoming in terms of who are we welcoming for, because we're welcoming if people have the economic means to be able to move into town. People that have the economic means people feel very welcomed here if they're able to get here. I'm not saying we're not a welcoming town, I'm just feel we're not welcoming in terms of other people that want to be able to come into town. That's what I'm saying. That's the point I'm making.
I guess I hear that.
And that's from my lens,
Right, sure, right.
I feel, and this is, while I'm voicing this as a different perspective.
Well, what about promoting a welcoming community, or,
Yeah, I think that's great.
I mean, how does that sit with people? I think you can.
I like that.
Yeah, promoting.
But then the first sentence is Woodbridge is welcoming. But again, it is a vision, as Andrew pointed out.
Right, but we're not. I think promoting a welcoming community is good.
Do we feel we need to change this stance, or we still feel that's
Could we just,
future oriented?
we could just get rid of the is welcoming and just say is, it could just go to with,
Has strong roots.
has strong roots.
Yeah, I agree.
Has strong roots and an openness.
You can say friendly. I understand, Kathy, the point that you're trying to make because, you're trying to open up more housing choices in the town. So I get what you're saying, but I do feel it's a welcoming and friendly town. But I understand your criticism of the word welcoming means that there may not be so many options for people that might not have as much money to come into town. So, I get the direction that you were going in. But it is a welcoming town and it is aspirational. So, all right, so you want to take out the word welcoming? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the only other thing I would say about that sentence is an openness to new neighbors and maybe collaboration with the regional community. I'm not sure openness to the regional community doesn't really make sense to me, unless I'm
I
missing.
think that's a good choice. So welcoming will still be in the title, but it's promoting a welcoming community, but then welcoming would be crossed out like Taylor has shown up on the screen, which I think that looks good. Any other, any other concerns?
Just think, this is page 1. You've got a whole thing to look at.
Were there other elements of, there's a comment that was included here, other elements of subtle political innuendo that folks felt were misplaced or appeared in an unwelcome way here?
Yeah, I wasn't getting the political innuendo. I mean, unless it was a reference to what I wrote, but I really didn't think
I don't
that.
think so. I mean, I think certain
Yeah.
terms in this town are just a little bit charged because of people's vested interest in the future of the town. So I think words like open spaces have taken on political dimensions, but I'm not sure inherently that that phrase has any valence. I don't know what other people think.
I was happy to see the word open replaced with natural. But I agree with you.
Yeah.
I guess my last comment is when we're talking about protecting cultural heritage. I wasn't sure what that meant.
Historic and cultural heritage is protected.
I mean, I can see
I took it agricultural, farm-like, and that there's like a lot of farming areas, parks, and that sort of thing. So rather than living in the city, what I find compelling about living in Woodbridge is that there's trees and more farming areas, more animals. We have some farms in the property in the area. So I think in terms of a New England heritage, that's what I think when I hear that phrase. So that's how I think about it.
But we have open spaces are preserved. I wasn't sure what cultural heritage we're protecting. I'm just gonna.
Is that a charge?
I come in with a different lens and I start questioning like,
No, that's okay. That's why
what
we're
are we
here.
what are we saying?
I know some folks have expressed some opinions about something related to that
Yeah.
extremely explosively charged piece of property that the town owns, about there being a cultural, historical connection.
Yeah,
I don't personally see the need for that phrase either,
yeah.
but I don't feel so strongly about it. I don't
Is
know.
that a charge within the statute?
Well, I would, again, we can change it. I think we do need to talk, I mean, we will be talking about historic and cultural resources, and we were trying to, we wordsmithed it because the word resources was being used so much. And so innocently, we just said, we came up with cultural heritage, historic and cultural heritage as a kind of another way to say historic and cultural resources, just not to be not so repetitive.
'Cause
Well,
within
could
the
you say
sta-
historical resources?
Well, I mean, we really have to say cultural too,
Cultural.
because they're like in some communities, and you know, there might be like you might have like an art museum,
Mhm.
you might have like a dance company, you know, those types of other things that might be like historically significant. There could also be like Native American historical sites or artifacts, things like that. So in the vision statement, we try to cover them as broadly in a broad statement, so that when we get to specific goals and strategies, that we can make sure that cultural can be handled separately from historic.
Rather than is protected, you could say are respected, or history and cultural heritage are respected. I don't know. I don't think I understand enough about the potential elements of the historical and cultural elements to know what we're respecting or protecting.
That seems to make some sense, yeah.
Perspective. But then open spaces are preserved.
We did change the, and this was on Commissioner Klee's suggestion, up in the top where it says the small town charm. That did say open spaces originally, and he changed it to natural, and I think he just didn't, we probably should change the second reference to natural spaces
Yeah,
as
would you all
well.
be comfortable with that?
Is that okay?
That would be good with
I would, yeah.
It's 6:30.
6:30.
And we know that, I mean, because with the open house that we had, and this is a very common thing in many communities, so we deal with it regularly, but we know about the sensitivities with open space and the many different definitions, and we know that your existing POCD, as well as like your open space plan, will help to answer some of those questions, and we definitely will lead the POCD in that direction and be sensitive to those things.
One thing I just noticed, theme area number 1, the title says pursing. I think it should say pursuing.
Yeah, sorry, typo.
It's okay.
Good catch.
There's an extra comma in there somewhere too, but I lost it. So not too worried about it.
Do we think, are we okay after having the conversation about the word heritage, or are we still would
I'm
prefer
still
to-
trying to think of a
Okay. Yeah.
good word.
If we were going to do our respected, historic should be changed to history.
So wouldn't, so cultural would need to change too, wouldn't it, if we change that? Or
Oh, well,
would we say
heritage
where,
is the word,
would we,
yeah.
would we just put the word resources back in, historic and cultural resources?
Yeah.
Are respective?
I see. Sure.
Like that?
Historic and yes, sorry. So it would go back to historic and cultural resources.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a very generic way, we probably could just say where history is respected, but again, we're trying to, while we want to keep it as broad and general as possible, because it is just the vision statement, the state does kind of look for us like to mention cultural separate from history, so that's why we try to call it out separately.
Kathy's question's a fair one. Who's culture?
Well, who's heritage?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's
Well, you have Native American sites that are here in town that have been found and whatnot, so
and maybe
you
in
have
the
them.
future, right? And maybe in the future, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean.
Well, we have Native American, we have, this town is, what, 1700s, right? So,
Well, you have
Okay.
West Rock Bridge right next to you,
Colonial.
you have the 3 judges, you've got
right.
all that history that comes down, and that's in the 1660s, so I
Right.
mean, you've got history that's here that goes back.
So we're okay with this sentence? Is there,
Cultural resources are respected.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. It's never going to be 100% consensus on any of this, but it's close.
We can go back and, you know what, I noticed that there's historic and cultural heritage is also in the second line. As we go through and start to, obviously if you all agree tonight that it looks like it's in good shape, which is what we're hoping to get to in like 9 minutes. You know, what our next step is that we will start to pull forward goals to align with the various theme areas, and you know, we'll start with your existing POCD and we'll move them forward and make some adjustments or suggestions. We then will like look through the other subjects that have come out and that we've talked about and make some new recommendations for goals with some strategies underneath. We would then share that with you to in a upcoming meeting. That would be like our next meeting that we have with you. And then that will ultimately then lead to developing of policies and action steps underneath those, and working with the various other commissions and boards and town staff to make sure that those action steps and policies are aligning with that stuff. If at that point, after we start to have like a draft plan, if we need to make like some minor modifications to the vision statement, I mean, that's totally would be potentially expected, because we might find that once we get all the goals and strategies that we might need to add a word or something like that. So just keep that in mind too, that we do want to have one that you feel really comfortable with, because it may not change very much. And we do need to share this when we start talking with other boards and commissions in more detail, and town staff. We want to share them the vision that you all have. So we want to make sure you feel pretty comfortable with it, but we can make some adjustments later as well, if that is helpful. Were there any other like specific words or phrases that you had concern
No,
with?
those were the ones that popped out for me.
Okay. Okay. Anybody have any other comments from reviewing it, or notice any
Can you
typos?
circulate a clean copy of it?
Oh yeah,
You know,
definitely.
so we
After
can see
tonight.
that
Yep. We
in the
can.
next few days.
Yeah, definitely. We can send that to you, Chris, tomorrow, really, and then
Great.
share it.
Thank you.
But are we otherwise ready to adopt based on the changes that we've made here?
Or move forward with.
Yeah. So we're not adopting the statement yet.
We're not
just
voting on it.
provisionally.
Well, yeah, I think it just has to be like a verbal, like a concurrence.
Sure.
Because
And
you're
we
not.
can do that by email, right, when it comes out, and just say yes.
This is
So we-
what the changes
we
have
can
been
vote
made
now.
on there.
Okay, yes, Chris.
Okay, so
All right.
we're
it
not gonna
helps.
make any
Yes.
more changes.
All right. Chris, okay? All right, thank you.
I mean, with the
I mean, a
understanding.
verbal
that-
concurrence would probably be
What?
helpful.
Yeah.
A verbal concurrence would probably be helpful to us.
Not a
just-
vote, but a verbal concurrence.
Fine. I'm in favor.
We've got you, Jeff.
I concur.
Thank you. All right.
Everybody else concurs.
I'm good.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Couldn't work.
Right?
I concur.
But we will
And
definitely.
you still have an opportunity to fine tune.
Sure.
Yeah, that makes me feel comfortable. If there need to be minor changes, a word that we decide to add or omit,
later.
yeah, I feel good about that.
But we will definitely send it out to you again, like without all the other edits and all that. We'll just send you a clean copy and say this
Thank
is
you.
the vision statement that we're moving forward with.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when, like I said, then our next step will be that we will start to pull out various goals from your existing POCD and start to realign them, as well as come up with new ones. You know, we did underneath each theme area, you know, we did put up like what are the goals and focus areas most likely that would fall within that particular theme area, so that you had a good sense of like what full subjects we would be talking about. So be on the lookout that we will most likely have a goal or a strategy that would address each one of those areas. And then more could potentially come as well. Okay? And that goals and focus areas is more developed than the very first version that we gave you, based on some of the conversations that we've already had, so.
In terms of like the action plan that comes out towards the end, is that something that happens at the end once everything is?
Yeah, that's kind of like the last step. I mean, the action plan is really just, it's based on the actions themselves that get developed, and then it just kind of shows, you know, when we put it together in a table that has like the goal and then the strategy and then the policies, because those are always, you know, there's not like a responsible entity or a time frame, but then the action steps do. And then that's the very last thing that we put together and share with Chris and the town staff, so that they can fill in the responsible entities and timeframes and stuff like that. And that's like the very last step.
So that's where you want to make sure that there's ownership by whoever you're assigning it to say, yeah, we're gonna work on that. Or they want to share it with another board or commission or something.
Yeah, no, because I know a lot of the commissions and committees are working on their goals, and just,
Well, yeah, we've received some feedback already, and then, you know, we will be, once we get now that we have the vision statement in place, and then once we talk with you all about the goals and strategies, we will then follow up with them on, and making sure that if we have, give them an opportunity to verbally talk with us with what they've supplied, and then we will start to filter them into the action steps and policies. You know, because obviously there's some things that they may have as a priority that we'll have to share with you and say, like, do you concur that this is a priority for you? And, you know, and again, just to repeat about that implementation plan, it doesn't, the action steps that are in that will be, you know, you will have reviewed them way in advance of the implementation plan being complete. They're not, it's not like new information. The only thing new in the implementation plan is the responsible entity and the time frame for that action step. Okay?
Sounds good.
Any other questions or ideas or suggestions for us? Okay, well, we really appreciate you taking the time to come out on this mid-December cold, rainy, snowy night and kind of wrapping that up. And we definitely appreciate everybody's comments, because that's what makes the best vision statement, when everybody's ideas and thoughts are kind of interwoven.
Thank you.
So with that, we thank you.
Robert.
Okay, thank you.
Have we concluded our business? We have, I
Yes,
assume?
so you get to adjourn.
We have. All right, I will move to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
2 minutes
Meeting
to
adjourned.
spare.